$8 billion. Gone. Not stolen by hackers. Not lost in a market crash. Stolen by the guy running the company. It's November 2022. Millions of people log into an app called FTX to pull out their money. The button doesn't work. Support goes silent. Twitter turns into a crime scene in real time. 48 hours earlier, this company was worth $32 billion. 48 hours later, it's worth nothing. The man behind it is hiding in a penthouse in the Bahamas, tweeting apologies while his empire burns to the ground. His name is Sam Bankman-Fried. And this is the story of how the second largest crypto exchange on earth vaporized $8 billion of customer money in less time than it takes to watch a Netflix series. Rewind to 2019. Sam Bankman-Fried is 27 years old. Messy hair, cargo shorts, a hoodie he clearly slept in. He looks like a college kid who wandered onto a trading floor by accident. That's the point. He builds FTX as a cryptocurrency exchange, a place where people buy and sell Bitcoin, Ethereum, and hundreds of coins nobody can actually explain. Crypto is exploding. Money is flooding in from every direction. And SBF positions himself as the adult in the room. The safe one. The guy who actually cares about regulation while everyone else in crypto is out here scamming grandmas. It works. Spectacularly. By 2021, FTX is valued at $32 billion. Investors line up to hand him cash. Sequoia Capital. SoftBank, Ontario's own pension fund. These aren't dumb money. These are the sharpest investors on the planet, and they're writing checks to a company most of them can't fully explain to their own boards. SBF becomes the face of an entire industry. He buys naming rights to the Miami Heat Arena, FTX Arena. He runs a Super Bowl commercial with Larry David basically calling crypto skeptics idiots. He becomes the second biggest political donor to Joe Biden's campaign. Politicians take his calls. Regulators take his meetings. Magazine covers call him the next Warren Buffett. Meanwhile, SBF is doing interviews explaining effective altruism, telling reporters he only owns one car, sleeping on a beanbag chair for the cameras. The humble genius routine isn't an accident. It's armor. Nobody audits the guy who looks like he doesn't even care about money. Except he's not sleeping on a beanbag because he's humble. He's sleeping in a $10 million Bahamas penthouse with 9 other executives, several of whom he's also dating. Then in early November 2022, a news outlet publishes Alameda's balance sheet, and it's ugly. A huge chunk of Alameda's assets aren't cash. They're FTT, a token FTX itself invented out of thin air. Billions of dollars in value that exists because FTX says it exists. The moment people read that report, they understand the truth. Alameda isn't a real trading firm holding real assets. It's a house of cards propped up by monopoly money that FTX printed for itself. Panic hits instantly. The CEO of Binance, FTX's biggest rival, announces he's dumping his FTT holdings. That single tweet lights the fuse. Customers start pulling money out of FTX by the billions all at once, all in a matter of hours. And here's the moment everything breaks. The withdrawals don't process. Because the money isn't there. It was never sitting in reserve. It had already been spent, loaned out, gambled away by Alameda months earlier. FTX is trying to process an old-fashioned bank run on a company that never actually kept the bank part of the equation. Here's what nobody notices. Behind FTX sits a second company, a trading firm called Alameda Research. SBF founded it before FTX, and he still controls both. On paper, they're separate. In reality, they share a bank account, practically. And that single detail is the crack in the dam that nobody outside the company can see. Because when you run the casino and you also run a gambler with a direct line to the vault, you don't need a plan to steal. You just need a bad week. Here's the part that should have ended this company on day one. FTX built a special backdoor into its own exchange. A hidden setting that let Alameda Research withdraw customer funds with no limit and no red flag. Not a glitch, not a bug, a feature, built on purpose. Every other customer on FTX had rules. Alameda had none. When Alameda needed cash for a bad trade, a risky bet, a political donation, a beach house, the money came straight out of customer deposits. Not company profits, customer money. The same money regular people thought was just sitting safely in their accounts, ready to withdraw whenever they wanted. And they used it. Billions of dollars in customer funds moved into Alameda, and from there into venture investments, real estate, and loans to executives. Estimates say Alameda quietly borrowed somewhere around $8 billion of customer deposits over time. Employees inside the company raised concerns. Nobody with real power stopped it because the guy who could stop it was the same guy doing it. SBF spends days publicly insisting FTX is fine. Assets are fine. Everything's fine. He tweets it directly to millions of followers while, behind the scenes, executives are scrambling to find any liquid cash anywhere in the company. There isn't any. Binance briefly agrees to buy FTX to save it, looks at the actual books for about a day, and walks away immediately. That's the tell. When the crypto industry's most aggressive risk-taker looks inside your company and says absolutely not, you know it's over. Within 72 hours, FTX files for bankruptcy. One of the largest bankruptcy filings in American corporate history. Overnight, roughly 1 million creditors are staring at accounts that show a balance but can't pay out a single dollar. The new bankruptcy CEO, a guy who literally oversaw the Enron collapse, comes out and says something chilling. He says in all his years of cleaning up corporate disasters, he has never seen such a complete failure of basic controls. No rail board. No accounting department that actually functioned. Corporate funds used to buy houses for employees. This wasn't just risky. It was barely a company at all. SBF flees to the Bahamas, thinking distance equals safety. Doesn't. He's arrested at the airport there in December 2022, extradited to the United States and put on trial. Executives who were with him from the beginning, including his former girlfriend and the CEO of Alameda, flip and testify against him in exchange for lighter sentences. The jury doesn't take long. Guilty. 7 counts. Wire fraud. Securities fraud. Conspiracy. Money laundering. In March 2024, a federal judge sentences him to 25 years in prison and orders $11 billion in forfeiture. The judge looks him dead in the eye and rejects his argument that customers didn't really lose anything. SBF didn't stop fighting. His lawyers appealed, arguing he never got a fair trial. That appeal finally got its answer in June 2026, when a federal appeals court in Manhattan shut it down completely, calling him the main driver of one of the largest frauds on record. He's currently sitting in a low-security federal prison in California with a release date somewhere around 2044. Meanwhile, bankruptcy lawyers have clawed back billions for customers, and payouts are still trickling out years later. Some people are getting made whole based on old dollar values, which sounds fine until you remember Bitcoin is worth several times more today than it was when FTX collapsed. People who lost crypto worth a fortune now are getting cash back based on 2022 prices. That's its own quiet tragedy buried inside this story. Here's the part that should scare you more than the dollar amount. Thousands of everyday people, plus some of the smartest venture capital firms on the planet, handed money to a 29-year-old in cargo shorts because he looked humble and talked about ethics. Nobody checked the vault. Nobody demanded real audits. Nobody asked the one obvious question. Where exactly is our money sitting right now? A $32 billion empire evaporated because one person controlled both the casino and the gambler, and nobody in the room had the power or the guts to say stop. If a story like this makes your stomach turn, imagine being one of the million people still waiting on a payout. Drop a comment with the one red flag you would have caught before handing over your money. Subscribe if you want the next corporate collapse dissected the same way, because this one is not the last time it happens. It's just the biggest one so far. January 2007. A stage in San Francisco. Steve Jobs pulls a slab of glass out of his pocket. No keyboard, no stylus, just a screen. 600 miles away, in a boardroom in Waterloo, Canada, the men who built the most powerful phone company on earth start laughing. They are not worried. They are amused. BlackBerry's co-CEO looks at footage of the iPhone and tells his own engineers on the record, "We're not going to get the iPhone on the market. That's not what's going to happen." He was wrong. Spectacularly, catastrophically wrong. 4 years later, the company he ran was worth $80 billion less. 90% of the smartphone market had walked out the door. And the device that businessmen once handcuffed to their wrists like a briefcase full of gold was sitting in a drawer, dead. This is the story of BlackBerry, the company that invented the smartphone in everything but name, and then argued itself into extinction. Not because they couldn't build the future, because they refused to believe anyone wanted it.